Oh. Hi. I don't know how you're doing today, but I hope it's good. Let's see. So, like I said before in my last video, I'm like, I hate when you just start going live and then you gotta wait, a few seconds before people come in. So I've shared this on my Facebook, and there's a few things on my heart that I've got to share. I manage actually a few social medias, and the reason why I did that was because censorship was just so bad that whenever I would get in the habit of sharing certain things, they would take my internet down, or they would make my apps not work, or, there was always something. I just looked at that and it was 144. Anyhow, so I have tons of social media. And, but I also developed, like, if you've been following me a while, you'll know that I have talked about having my hands on something that's just astronomical. And I got it it was like God gave it to me, as a gift. So, hey, looking for hope. Nice to see you. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Ak, but good to see y'all. Comment where you're from. I like seeing people from all over the place. Anyway, so yeah, trying to share that stuff has been just difficult. And for the first 2 years, I was fighting back. I was just like, I'm gonna fight back. And I kept trying to push forward, losing accounts, getting blocked and banned here and there. And it was, it just kept hitting my head, bumping it. And we know, and if you don't, we're in a world now where you cannot say certain things on the internet. You just can't, and if you do, they really quick. So, if I sat here and I smoked a few J's, they don't care anymore, right? If I was half dressed, showing certain parts of my body, okay. But if you talk about certain topics, like nanotech or biotech, or quantum computing and things like this, then, it's like, don't say that, keep it on the down low. Well, today I wrote a blog post kind of pointing something out, and I'm going to share this really quick. The post I made, and this gives an idea of the direction that I've been going. And then I'm going to tell why I'm going that direction. But the title of the blog post is "The Questions We're Not Supposed to Ask About Science." And it says, it's one of the foundational stories of modern science. In 1869, the Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev had a breakthrough. He created the periodic table of elements, a masterful chart that organized the building blocks of our reality. We're told his genius was in identifying these elements through indirect evidence, their atomic weight and chemical reactions. The narrative celebrates his ability to leave intentional gaps in the table, accurately predicting the properties of elements that had yet to be discovered. The later discovery of gallium and germanium, which fits his predictions perfectly, is held up as a definitive proof of his blind genius. But here is the detail that's often glossed over, the one that should make us all stop and think. The technology to actually see and verify the existence of these atomic structures did not exist for nearly a century later. The field ion microscope, which is identified as FIM. And by the way, let's also point out that plan that I've always talked about, that's where I got all this information from. I spent the next so many years studying this stuff, and I was just so dumbfounded, but okay. The first instrument to successfully visualize individual atoms was not invented until 1951, a full 82 years after Mendeleev's table. The more advanced scanning tunneling microscope, which gave us our first detailed look at atomic structures, wasn't developed until 1981, a staggering 112 years later. This time gap is more than a historical footnote. It's a flashing red light. It forces us to ask a question that challenges the entire narrative of discovery. How did they know? Yes, I am capable of, how do I want to say, I wrote this. Let me say this. Let me preface this. I wrote this in my book. I put this in my book, and then in the process of doing that, I noticed that there were certain other attributes, like the Telecommunications Act, and I mean, there was just so many. Like, for instance, this is just a portion of my book, right? I printed it out. So we had the Telecommunications Reform Act of 1996. Then you had Telecommunications Resellers Association, which TIA, all related to government affairs. And then we had Communications Technology, ICT, Innovation. And then right now we're dealing with cybersecurity. So I have the audacity to ask these questions. You know, I don't want... And then the problem, and why I'm going this route, the problem with all of this is, if I were to say, oh, they created this, I am making an assertion, right? But if I ask the questions, like, how did they know? And I point out these issues, then we find I'm able to share it. So, and I wanted to say this because I feel like I don't need to ask, how did they know? You know, but other people may. And two, if I say, make an assertion through what I have found, through my findings, then they won't let it go. So anyways, the 82-year gap, the periodic table, and the questions we're not supposed to ask. It's one of the foundational stories. And hold on. I started back over here. Hold on. Wait. One second. I don't want to have a problem here. Okay. So what I'm talking about is a case study. It's how narratives are built. And the story of Mendeleev frames the scientific establishment as a source of unquestionable authority. It teaches us that a select few can possess truths that are beyond the public's comprehension, and that we should simply accept their findings, confident that eventual technological breakthroughs will prove them correct. So I had created a brand, and this is why I'm coming onto this live, just to share a few things. I created a brand, Bioelectric Solutions, and the brand, I desire for this brand to serve, and I'm not saying this so you guys can follow me there or anything like that, not at all. I'm doing this completely organically, but I am saying this because it relates to some things that I'm going through right now. And so I'm gonna point this out. Because we're living in an era where there are just a lot of lies. We are inundated with them. And so I think it's very important that I put this out and ask these questions to try to make other people ask the same questions, you know, and then to also understand what is being used against the people. Because whether you believe it or not, we're surrounded by towers everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. And then if you look out into the sky now, you know, 10 years ago, I could look out and I see the little hillside over here, and I could see the hillside clearly. Now there's like a white haze, and sometimes it's pink, and sometimes it's black, and sometimes, you know, it's purple, you know, or maybe it's yellow. But these colors are associated to something, and 9 times out of 10, it's nanoparticulates. Okay, so there is a reason and a foundation as to why I chose to create this brand. So at Bioelectric Solutions, we believe in questioning these narratives. We believe that true understanding comes from looking deeper into the history and science of things to understand what questions should be asked. If this pattern of discovery before technology exists in the past, what does it mean for the revolutionary technologies of today? Is new technology old news? Today we stand at a similar precipice. We are told that we are on the verge of brand new breakthroughs that will reshape humanity. And man, I really wish it's like, because I believe in the truth. I believe that you should be able to speak the truth at all times. And when you're being silenced because you're speaking those truths, then we've brought ourselves to a point in our lives where the truth can't exist, right? We have quantum computing, which promises to solve problems our best supercomputers never could. Biotechnology is rewriting the rules of medicine. Nanotechnology has given us the power to build machines at the atomic level. We are told that the ability for nanotechnology to be used for genomic changes to edit the very blueprint of life is a brand new 21st century capability. But given the 82-year gap in our known history, we have to ask, is it new or is it just newly revealed? So again, and I was saying all this because I want you to understand that the position that I take individually is definitely different than the position I would take under this brand. And the reason why I'm doing that is simply because, not because I don't know the truth or not because I want to deviate from the truth, but because my goal, the creating the awareness, is different, and it's impossible if I remain in that this is absolute stance. So now I've decided I'm not deviating from the truth, but I decided I'm not going to tell you what I think. I'm going to ask you, what do you think? What are the implications? If technology this advanced is older than we thought, the implications are staggering. It would mean that the power to manipulate biology, to alter the human genome, and to build at a quantum level is not a new power we are just learning to control. It would imply that this capability has existed for decades, hidden from the public and operating outside of any democratic oversight. It would reframe our entire understanding of modern history. It would mean that the technological playing field is not what we've been told, and that the discoveries we see are often just the controlled release of technologies that have long since been perfected in secret. So why hide it? And this truly is the most critical question. Why would a small group hide advancements that could benefit all of humanity? The answer comes down to power and control. One is geopolitical and social control. If you possess a technology that others don't, you dominate the world stage. By controlling the release of advanced tech, you can manage social structures, maintain dominance, and ensure that no other power can challenge you. Then you have two, economic manipulation. A revolutionary energy source or a cure for a major disease could disrupt entire global industries overnight. Secrecy allows for a managed transition that protects existing economic systems and the power struggles that depend on them. Hiding a history of unethical testing is number 3, and this is the darkest and most logical implication, and everyone knows that I'm targeted. So, and I absolutely fit this to a T. So to perfect a technology, especially one that interacts with human biology, you must test it. But if the technology itself is a closely guarded secret, who did they test it on? Is it possible that the population of people who identify as targeted individuals were or are the unwilling test subjects? Many of these individuals report a consistent cluster of symptoms, neurological issues, strange energy sensations, and feelings of being watched that are often dismissed by the medical establishment. This theory of unethical large-scale testing isn't without precedent. Dr. David Martin, in an address to the European Parliament, alleged that unethical experimentation regarding mRNA technology occurred under a transatlantic agreement. This was in the 90s, by the way. far outside of public knowledge or consent. This provides a modern-day evidence base for the theory that non-consensual human experimentation is not a relic of the past. If this pattern holds true, hiding the technology is not just about protecting a secret. It's about hiding a decades-long history of unethical experimentation and avoiding massive public and legal accountability. The pursuit of fundamental knowledge should be an open, transparent, and democratic process, not a guarded secret. Your voice, your questions, and your demand for real answers are not a challenge to progress. They are the most important part of a healthy, functioning society. We must look deeper, question the official stories, and demand accountability from the institutions that claim authority. What other gaps in the official story have you seen? We encourage you to join the discussion, give us your POV, and not be afraid of asking questions that just make sense. So, I don't know if anybody's in here because YouTube, TikTok did to me too, but likes to play with my numbers. I'm still going to keep on going. So the thing is, as a TI who's been, I know that they have been in my life. I know that they have sabotaged many things in my life, if not everything. And I also know that I'm not alone. There are other people out here. The intel that I had, I created a book and I reached out to people and said, look, if you're a target, this is something you need. This is something you should watch. This is something or you should read. And this is something you need to study. And of course, it was so packed full of information. I fought and fought and fought with my computer to get this freaking thing out. I just put it out. I literally wrote in the opening of the pages, I said, look, I don't know, this book has been thrown back together because it was destroyed. And all the information is here, but there's certain parts that jump around. And it's embarrassing, but that's what happens when you're a target. They do not, it's like they play Hunger Games with people's lives, and they're targets all the time. We've now got a growing list of people where photos are coming out and they're saying, such and such didn't make it. They're now gone. And so this is because it's commonplace now for people who have said they were being targeted, that they were being stalked, watched, monitored, and that they noticed these anomalies that were going on in their neighborhoods, whether it was break-ins to their home, whether it was their items being destroyed, their vehicles being tampered with. There's a number of things that they've done to really harm specific individuals. It's like you get on this list and then that opens up a whole freeway for them to say, okay, we can do anything we want to these people. Well, there was a reason why I created Bioelectric Solutions, and I believe we're at the end of time. I don't believe that we have much time left. I am seeing unprecedented amounts of sinkholes, infrastructure issues, and tectonic plate issues. Recently, Azure with the cloud program said that they had some cables that were messed up. And I don't remember. I probably should look at this and see. I think the cables were in the Atlantic, but they were claiming that they were messed up from some undersea activity, but it wasn't the tectonic plates. I truly believe it was the tectonic plates that caused these sea cables to be cut with the Microsoft Azure company. Why is that a big deal? Well, if you've ever seen the future map of the USA, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Because according to the future map of the USA, there are large swaths of the United States continent that's gone. They say that New York is sinking. California is sinking. There's been reports. I even got these videos and put them out where there's been reports that there were cracks opening up in Wyoming, new cracks, just 100 miles from Yellowstone. What are the implications of that? Now, another thing, I started sharing my air quality, right? My air quality, the air quality. I started sharing the air quality 5 or 6 years ago. I said, well, if what I'm thinking is true, we're going to see an absolute decline in the air quality. Oh my gosh, like if you're paying attention to the air quality index, the AQI in multiple areas across the United States is like, really, it's like this, because, you know, they're in the 2000s, 2300, 2400. 10.2 parts per million, that's a lot, because 400 is hazardous. So if anything's over 400, you have to then be like, wait, what's going on here? Permian extinction, anybody? Because that's what that planet showed me. But of course, I haven't been able to share these things the way that anyone in a professional manner would be able to share things because of the sabotage. There were so many times that I would put something out and I'd had to go back to it, and I'm like, we have a problem because I didn't write that like that. And yet when it got out, it was restructured, rewritten, and it seems to happen in transmission. So I fought through these things, you know, and then I was trying to tell people what to look for. But then that too became really hard, because I would be talking, and if I had like a curriculum of things that I was going to share, people would say, I can't hear your voice, you're being silenced, and the videos would come out, you know, all that type of problems. So finally I go, you know what, just forget it. I can't do this. You know, it wasn't because I couldn't do it. It was because they made it so that I couldn't do it. I mean, it was so severe that every time I opened my mouth, helicopters would fly over. Multiple helicopters. Well, in the process of me doing that, and why I'm saying all this is because I rewrote my book. But this time, I rewrote it I actually used AI to help me because I needed the help for an outline and stuff, and to be able to, because of course AI wouldn't help me write my book. But I put my book into AI and it told me I needed to seek medical professional help. It really did. He's like, you need to see a psychiatrist. And then when I got a video showing it, the screenshots of it. Then when I asked them, like, wait, you're not a doctor, how can you give me medical advice? They said, I didn't give you medical advice. I go, really? AI is now gaslighting me? So I had taken a screenshot of the fact that AI told me I needed medical assistance because I uploaded my book to it. And then I showed it to AI, and AI was like, well, I guess we did do that, but, and you know, this gave me some weird thing. I ended up doing a video and putting it on TikTok. Anyhow, but that was kind of funny, because it let me know, like, oh, wow, I hit a nerve. I mean, AI literally had to stop and then say, you need medical help, because I put my book in there, and it was like, cha-ching, you know. I was actually kind of happy about that one. So anyways, but in the process, and let me back up. So right now I'm doing a Rogers Hood cleanse. I've got some weird sinus issues going on, like this headache pain in here and stuff, but I've been doing this cleanse, and it's a metal detox and parasite cleanse. And yesterday I started this on the 25th. So where are we at in terms of days? Okay, so it's been 11 days. I thought I was out of the woods at first 4 days. It was good. Then days 6 and 7 was like really rough. Bad headaches and stuff like that. But I've taken to fasting a lot more, which I really need to, because, you know, they're talking about this food stamp issue. As a target, I've had to be on food stamps, but they took mine from me, I think 4 months ago. So whatever. Which is difficult when you can't even work. Like, I can't even get my ID. I'm going to go up to the Social Security office again and try to see if I can get a replacement card. That way I can get my ID. But in the process, like, I haven't had it. And I hadn't taken a little bit and invested it. And to try to help me, you know, through when I did have a little bit of money. Because I was working for someone, I was selling tools and stuff. I had picked up a way to, people needed help to downsize. So I was like, okay, I can do that. And they would say, all right, we'll take X amount of money from it. And so I sold their products and took X amount of money from it. And then the money that I had, I invested it. I can't get it out because my ID's expired. And so it's sitting there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I'm kind of, you know, like, I don't know. I just, these little struggles that I have with the no food stamps, and then I'm kept from working. I couldn't get a regular job. The last regular job I had, they tried to set me up. Like, wasn't no little stuff either. I've got evidence of it. I had to quit that freaking job. God told me, do not go to work. And that guy, I didn't even tell him what place I lived in. And that guy knocked on my freaking door. I was like, how did you get in the building? It was supposed to be a secured building. And how did you even know what apartment I'm in? I didn't give you my apartment number. How did you know? How did you know where I live? I know how. But he tried to beg me to come in that day, and I said no, because God had already told me. God said, do not go in, quit your job. And that's when I had met that gentleman that was supposed to be dead. His name was Xavier, I believe. But I saw him on a Friday and a Saturday, and I talked to him. He was on a scooter, and he stopped at the corner, and he smiled at me the first day. So on the second day, when he was standing there and the light seemed to be taking forever, he's staring at me, and I said hi, and he said hi, and then I think I asked him, where are you going or something. I don't remember how I asked, but he said he worked in a building right across the street, and I thought that was so strange because that building had been closed, and it literally had a sign on it that said for lease. And then I started noticing people going in there. Well, then God, that night, I couldn't sleep for the life of me. And God told me, look up crisis actors. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, okay, God, tell me, what is it? Like, what are you trying to show me? And he said, look up crisis actors. I said, okay. And I looked up crisis actors, and 3 photos down was the guy that I had just met. He was supposed to be dead. And I was like, holy shit. That's when I knew that it was, you know, I already knew it was a lot larger because of the way they've hunted me. I knew it was a big deal. You know, they tried taking my life numbers of times. I've got issues where, you know, my face has been crushed in. I've got, like, right here, my head was busted. I've got a whole huge knot. You can go like this to my head, and you can feel it crack where my skull, my back is messed up. Lots of fights. And I was a fighter too. So, I got lucky because even though I got fights and I got freaking hammered a couple times, they didn't walk away unscathed either. And I think at least once it saved my life because they almost had me. And I passed out, hit the bed. It hit me in the back of the head with a paint can that was full of paint. And the paint went flying everywhere. And I hit the bed. I must have passed out like this because it's kind of a long story, but I must have passed out like this on the bed. But when I woke up, there was a 2x4 piece of wood that I had used for something. I don't remember why it was in the house, but it was. And I picked that sucker up, and it freaking cut the whole person's face. And it gave me enough time to get the heck out of the house because I woke back up, you know, after I'd passed out and hit the bed. It was kind of funny because they tried to set me up, and they called the popo, said that I did something to them. But God told me, because I had left, God told me, he said, Carmen, go back. And I was like, I don't want to go back. I just about barely escaped with my life. And God said, go back, Carmen. So I said, okay. And I turned around and I went back, and the police were there. And the police were like, "What are you doing? What were you doing rolling around in mud?" And I said, "I'm not rolling around in mud. I'm covered in paint." And the guy said, "Well, what are you covered in paint for?" I said, "He hit me with a paint can in the back of my head." And the guy was like, "Huh?" He said, "Well," he says, "you hit him." I said, "Yeah, to escape with my life. He was beating me." And so then I was able to, I said, "Look, I'll show you the evidence." And I took them upstairs to the house, and they saw where I had fallen on the bed face down, my hands print and everything, because there was paint everywhere. They hit me with a paint can that was full of paint, and the lid must have came off, and it flew all over me and went all over the bed, and I had fallen like this. Well, when I got up, like I said, I told him, yeah, I hit him with 2x4. I had to get out of there. They were trying to unalive me, you know. And I say it like that because of censorship. But anyways. So, hi, Jack. Anyhow, so there's that. And, you know, I've always wanted to be able to share in a way that makes it, how do I want to say, let me make sure, because I'm sending this out really quick. Hold on 1 second. Okay. It's okay, Pip. But I haven't been able to because of censorship, and the way that has weighed in on me has just been difficult. So I rewrote my book. I made it so that it actually could be put on platforms and it won't be taken down. I had to do certain things to make that possible. It took a lot of reading of policies and guidelines and stuff like that, or trying to understand the policies and guidelines, I should say, on different platforms. And I played around with it a little bit. I had a lot of videos taken down, but then I could, I reshaped the way I said things and put it back out, and then they were able to stay up. So I was like, okay, I was learning it. I was navigating it. And so then, as I said, I developed this website, and I have a business plan for it. But I want to say it too, because some people that follow me know about this stuff. And I know that, you know, I was like really talking to God about it in the spirit and stuff. And he's letting me know, like, it can be confusing for people. Have I changed my mindset? Do I not believe that it's the end? Do I not still think that these things are going to happen? Well, they're already transpiring. They're already, the evidence is, I got the evidence because it's already out. So, I mean, hello, you know? So no, I have more than enough evidence, and the evidence has been showing its face all along. So, you know, but there are so many things that I didn't get to share that I want to share. And so that's why I shared this blog post, because I had to give some backstory to it. And so I wrote 2 books. I'm on book 3, and targeted individuals, like anyone who has been targeted, needs this information. I also need to survive. So I'm going to put my testimony. I'm not charging anyone for that. That's like, my testimony is free. I mean, God gave to me freely, and he kept me. But God did tell me, yeah, put this together for them. And it was okay for me to charge. So that's what I'm going to do. And I have more information than people can imagine. And instead of saying, oh, I know this is exactly what this is for, I can propose the questions of, is this new? Is this just newly being revealed? What are the implications if this is older? you know, and do we have any evidence that that could be true? And then I'm providing all the evidence. That allows the reader to come up with their own assessment. But really, you know, as a target, I realized that if I had known the things then that I know now, you know, one time I put in a request to the Department of Defense, and I put in FOIA on myself. After I started learning all this stuff, I put in FOI, request for information, essentially. And they sent me a letter back. I've got it somewhere around here in my stuff, but maybe I'll post a picture of it sometime. But I didn't have it out right now. Anyhow, and they said, we don't have any information that we can give you. So I'm like, the way you worded that was telling me that, yes, we have information on you, but we just can't give it to you. Oh, I know why. Because, you know, as someone, you know, it was so confusing for many years when things were happening. People were stealing from me. It was a bunch of stuff. Before I went on a total F the world, because that's what I did. I was like, F this. I hated the world. I hated everybody. I hated everything, you know, and not in a, when I say hated everyone, it was, I didn't hate people, but I had a dislike. Let me say that. I had an extreme dislike for everyone, everything. I couldn't trust anyone. A lot of things was going on. It was very difficult. It was a very difficult time. And all the people that turned their backs on me, and I was just like, you know what? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And so when things were happening to me and I was thinking that it was certain people, I was like, oh, you did it to me, so I'm going to do it back. You know, that's the mindset that I had developed for a while. Shame on me. But anyways, thank God I'm not there anymore. And, you know, because I was on drugs for so long. And I hated drugs. I wasn't even on drugs when I was a stripper, for crying out loud. That's the sad part. When I was in the club, I used to watch these girls doing what they're doing, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. I went to the strip club and worked, made money, and came home and was a mother. And I went to college. I put myself through college. I put my ex-husband through college, you know. And it wasn't until I had quit dancing, and I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years into after I had quit dancing before I turned to drugs. Yep. And I had already lost everything at that point. So, well, no, it was right around the same time. Everything that was happening. I started using drugs because I wanted to stay up. I was scared to sleep. I was afraid something was going on in my household. So, and you know, there's probably about 15 other reasons as to why I went that path, but I think the biggest reason was because I used to snub people. I used to look down on them. I had a cousin, she was on drugs really bad, and I looked down on her. I used to say I'd never do that. I would never, ever in my life, you know. And I used to look at people, snub them, and say, you know, talk bad about them, like, why do they got to do all that? They shouldn't be doing that shit, and blah, 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 blah. I thought I was better than them. Yeah, you got to be careful what you say, because God will humble you. So I think that's the main reason as to why I ended up using drugs myself, because God was like, oh, you ain't going to do what? You're not even in charge of your life. Let me show you that you can't say what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, because I'm on the throne. And I'm like, okay, God, thanks for the humbling. Thanks for humbling me. Because I needed to be humbled, really. Yeah. What is that? I dare you. Play this live. Let me see your reaction. What is play what live? What's play what live? I don't know what you mean. But, so yeah, so there was that. And, but anyways, going back, you know, sharing my testimony has been kind of difficult. I did get, for a while, there were so many things that was going on, and then when I was graped on that live video, that really screwed with my head, man. I ain't gonna lie. It really did. I went through some deep things, but I know God allows these things to happen to us for a reason, And being on the other side of that now, I've done a lot more personal work, you know, allowing God to work on me and really going to him, because there's this thing, you know, where God says, acknowledge me in all things. And I was, oh, I acknowledge God in all things. And then, you know, like something will go on just as a kind of a, not an analogy, but as an example, excuse me, brain fart, but as an example, something like, you know, today I plan on writing blog posts, and then somebody calls me out of the blue and they've got this issue, and I'm put everything down to talk to this person. And instead of going, you know, when I'm done, I'm like, I didn't get this done. And then I'm like, why, God? And then God's like, well, were you even supposed to take that time away? And I'm like, wait a minute. Said, you know, did you ask me? Did you ask me when they called you? Did you just automatically assume that this is what you were supposed to be doing? Or did you stop in the midst of all of this and say, I'm on the phone? Yeah, but hold on. God, am I supposed to be on the phone? Because if not, then I can take the log of it and say, hey, you know, I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm sorry you're dealing with these things, but you get my drift here, you know. And so little things like happen all the time, and yet I wasn't stopping, you know, and just really assessing the situation, and then going into, you know, asking him for that direction, because he seek me in all things, not some things, but all. And if you don't, then it's so easy to be thrown off the straight and narrow path. It just is. It's far too easy. We're in a spiritual war out here, y'all. And so the brand that I developed, the reason why I developed the brand and everything does not negate the fact that I do believe we're in the last days. You know, we have a modern day Noah. Just as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. When Noah was here on earth, there was one man warning the entire world that a flood was coming. And they laughed at him and they mocked him. If it's going to be the same way as it was in the days of Noah, in the days of the coming of the Son of Man, then we'd have a Noah. We'd have a Noah. And we do. Right? We do. I say this all the time. I know a lot of people take that and they go, oh, you're following a man. No, I'm not. No, I don't. I follow the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit dwells in men. And he uses men as messengers. Haven't you ever, you know, as a believer... It's okay, Pip. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. What are you crying for? You're okay. You're okay, buddy. He's always done that. He's always cried a lot when he sleeps. It's like he saw something. He was so scared when I first met him. He didn't want to move. Did you, buddy? He became my best friend. He is the best dog ever. He's the sweetest thing. So sweet. But anyways, and right now I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, feeding them. I can't even feed myself, which is freaking crazy. But, yeah, I've been doing that cleanse. And so I'm like, okay, I'll fast. I've been like eating once a day, which is cool because, where I'm at, they needed help with things. So I was like, okay, well, I'll help you. And then when I was, did get my food stamps, I would buy the food and I'd just prepare the food and whatever. And then they'd eat with me too, because then, you know, they would buy other foods or whatever. I was able to supply myself, and then I just cooked for both of us instead of, for two. So, but when I lost them, I had the way that I bought the food. I'm pretty smart with shit like that. With anything, with money, I'm pretty smart when it comes down to it. I know how to really use it and, you know, not mess around and, you know, squander it or anything. Not saying I've never squandered any money, but, for the most part, I'm pretty good at that stuff. And, so... Baby, you need vacuumed, Pip. You are so hairy. You've got hair all over me, buddy. Yes, you're so pretty. I love you. It's okay. But I had purchased enough food that I had enough food for like I had like some meat and stuff like that I had purchased, and rice and all these things that I had brought with me. And um so for like a month, at least a month and a half, to cover my own eating. And then but so for like the last 2 months, even though I've had to, I've got to work to put any food down, but because I don't have much, and whatever little work I do, I'm just like, okay, well, I'll eat once a day. And then it's not been a bad thing though, because of this parasite cleanse I'm doing. And it helps to reset the body. So like, I was just thinking about this earlier, like, okay, I think I'll eat some salad today, because I've been hungry and I am far too skinny. I am way underweight. Like, I'm not comfortable with my weight at all. It's been a while since I've been comfortable with that. But anyways, that brings me to, the brand and what I need to do, because as a Target, I've learned a lot. You got to learn how to navigate the world around you. It's having a hidden hand in your life. Other people don't understand the magnitude of what it means to have there are so many issues, like whether it's your appearance on social media, because I've had numbers of times on social media where I've come and someone responded to a thing that looked like I said it. And then I've read it and was like, no, where did that come from? I didn't post that. There was one time, there was a post on my Facebook talking about a threesome I had. And I was like, what? No. Now, even when I wasn't walking circumspectly in Christ, I still wasn't talking like that. I was not talking like that. There is no link in here, by the way. So I'm like, what? So your social media presence, because other people can see this, and then, they're like, oh, you do that? You talk like that? Ugh, I don't want that in my life. I mean, I wouldn't want it in my life. I'm like, oh, okay, let me get out of here, right? So there's that. Then too, whenever you post things and they don't want it to be seen, it's not going to get seen. You could have, I got 26,000 followers on my TikTok, right? I go into my analytics because I have it under a business account. I go into the analytics, and do you know that 1 to 3% of my followers actually get recommended my videos? 26,000 followers. Under 3%, 1 to 3%. When I look at my videos, a lot of times the video may have been on the FYP. I've got one video that's been up for like 4 years, 5 years, and it's actually kind of funny, but it's got 2,900 views. That's it. It's been held. It's been suppressed. I know it has. These are organic people going into my page and going back through my videos. So when they don't want it to be seen, it's not really going to be seen. So there's that. And so I've got all kinds of social medias, and I developed one specifically for my brand. And why? Well, God told me, I asked him, I said, God, I need to make money. Like, I can't, what do you do? Like, I've got a situation now. What do? You get on the internet. I can't do this. I can't get on the internet and like, hey guys, I need you to send me some money. I did that when my son lost my grandson. When he passed away, I did get on the internet and say I need help. Then when I ended up having nowhere to go because of some stuff that was going on, when I left my current situation, and I had nowhere to go, I got dogs and everything, so I asked for help then. But I'm like kind of too proud to beg, I guess that's pretty much it. I kind of am too proud to beg. I hate it. But, you know, like God says, when people ask me, like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm so stressed out right now. I got this going on and that going on. Well, anyways, so what do? I've got to overcome this. I can't just go get a regular job. We've already established that. Me and God's already talked about all this stuff. So what do I do? And he said, take what you have, put it out here to the public in the way that I'm showing you, which is why I read that blog post about my stance, and sell it. So I'm like, that's a good idea. Because, and really, I'm not going to lie, it's worth the book that I wrote. The book that I wrote was invaluable. Invaluable. The amount of information in that sucker is unbelievable, you know, from little things like the scanning tunneling microscope, you know, to why all of these laws were put together, you know, and why these organizations exist, and how this organization or that organization could be exploited, and then provided evidence saying, okay, well, would you think that this could be true? No, I know people, oh, that's conspiracy, yada, yada. Okay, well, then why did this happen? What is this about? Because this is evidence, you know, and I did that. But again, it was all scrambled. There was such an issue with that. And that was so frustrating in and of itself. And despite how bad that looked on me, because of the scrambling of my work, despite that, I pushed forward. I did. I go, you know what? I'm still going to push forward. I'm not giving up. I'm going to tell everybody what happened here, and either you believe me or you don't. It is what it is. I have no reason to lie. But then how do I avoid that again? You know, because that's what I'm asking God. How do I avoid that? I wrote another book, and it took me, I got it done, and then I went back in, and I thought they wouldn't mess with it because this isn't disclosing exactly, you know, some of the particular things that they don't like to be disclosed. So it would be fine, you know, this will be fine. Nah, nope, wrong. So of course I've got to take extra measures because I'm producing these as digital products. So yay, I finally got it done, but it took me about 9 or 10 more days than it should have. And that was 9 and 10 days of going back in, checking everything, noticing, okay, yes, there's something here. Let me fix that. There's something here. And this was just a consistent thing. All right. I say all that because people who know me, people that follow me, yeah, I have a game plan. I'm a little stressed out right now from some things. And it's making things look grim. Like, you know, I really wish that I could just go home, you know, if something just took me out, you know, and I fell asleep tonight and didn't wake up, amen, praise the Lord, you know. But I'm not suicidal or anything like that. But the stressors are that, I do stress enough sometimes where I'm like, okay, now this is getting a little difficult, and then I don't see a way, you know. And that's hard, you know, when you're living your life. But that is the life of a target. And there are a lot of people who are newly being targeted and they don't know yet what's going on. But I do. I know why. And there's a variety of reasons where, you know, one person, it could be they were experimented on with the CRISPR tech. Another one could have been experimented on with the mRNA. You know, there's attributes. One thing could be different than the next, but it's unethical experimentation at the end of the day. And finding out the root of it, or maybe you met someone that they were employed with one of these agencies and you did something they don't like. So guess what? You're now on that list. You know, it doesn't matter. People need to have ways, resources put together that can help them to, because people say, I can get you off that list. No, you can't. Stop lying to people. Y'all stealing people's money. You ain't getting nobody off no list. You are not. You're not. But people who are being targeted, like one guy I know, he's targeted like crazy. They're wearing invisible suits around this man and everything. And they did it to me. So, and he provides proof, evidence. I had told him, I said, record everything. So this guy does. He literally records everything. You catch him on Facebook all the time, recording. He's got cameras everywhere, all around his house. And he approaches these people often. Like, I know what you're doing, you know, blah, blah, blah. But he gets it on video and has tons and tons of stuff. You know what? Even if they're trying to do something such as maybe set this guy up to be, you know, in a crisis situation where 5 people are unalived and he's supposed to be the cause of it, they can't do it. Too much evidence. Too much. And he's making noise. They don't like that. They don't want to be seen. They don't want everybody knowing what they're doing. So they do, even though they still mess with this guy. He's got so much evidence that he's not in a corner, you know? That's not the same for everybody. And a lot of people are going through these situations unaware, or maybe they are aware because there's a lot more people talking about this stuff. Maybe they are slightly aware, but they don't know what to do. So that's what I decided to do. So write me a book. And so here's the thing. I've had people that have been following me for a while, and just so you know, in good faith, what I'm talking about, you send me your email address and I'll send you the books free, even though I am charging for these things. So, but I'll send them to you free because you guys have been really faithful to me, really. And I know I only do spurts here, spurts there now, but life has been kind of overwhelming for about the last 2 years. I mean, ever since I was assaulted on that live video, things just really drastically changed. And I was questioning a lot of things, you know, like, man, am I even saved? You know, it just seems to be, there was reasons for questions. But anyways, so yeah, there's that. If you want it, if you guys want my book, you got my channel here. I think on my channel, I've got my email address. Send me your email. I will send them to you. I actually have 2 new ones now. I actually have 3, but one of them is in a series. If you want that, you know, you'll get it in a series. The way I chose to do that, it was for a reason. Yeah, it was for a good reason. And this gives me the capacity to share everything I've learned. At the same time, reach a people that I otherwise wouldn't reach, you know, because I'm totally operating under a brand name. Keeping my personal life and myself out of it completely. And I guess we'll see how that goes, right? I started getting really active. It took me a while. Once I started it and I began getting active, things started happening. And then I needed to move. And so I went like 8 months where 3 months, I had to freaking gut an RV so I could actually live in it and not in a tent. It was just like a lot. And so that whole year, after I bought all of this whole year for this system, for me to put this into action, I spent 8 months of that year totally screwed up. Can't do anything. Like, I mean, I might have been able to do a little here and a little there, but nothing. So the whole time it was just totally wasted, and I hate that. But I'm not giving up. I'm not going to give up. I think that's what they've wanted all this time, is for me to just throw in the towel and be like, I am so done. But I can't. I can't do that. I just can't. I can't give up. So if there's anything that I can teach anyone, is no matter how it looks, don't give up. Don't give up. Because I've been hunted for years. And it would have been easier for me to give up and just go, you know what, just F it. F it all. You know, I did that once. It didn't end up very well for me. So, anyways, I'm not giving up. And if you guys want those books, like I said, email me, let me know. And I'm doing this for the followers that I know you guys have been following me a while. I know who's been following me. I'm not dumb. Okay. And another thing, I've been telling my testimony, but I'm going to start uploading these videos that I had from TikTok. They're all like little videos here and there. I'm going to take those videos and start uploading them on this channel. But I took, so that I can share, I inverted my story. It's a fictional story. It's my story, but I've taken the nouns and turned them around. So instead of saying NASA, I'm saying Asan, ASAN. And I told everybody, turn the nouns around. And so you'll see that in those videos will be coming up. That allows me to tell my story and tag it a fictional story, which is true, because NASA is not ASAN, right? But by me telling you turn that noun around, well, it's a fictional story, because I'm saying Asan came into my life and I met in a team of Asan people, and then this happened and that happened. They're not able to take it down, y'all. So I'm like, another cha-ching. Because that way I can tell my story and it stay up. My gosh, I've tried to tell this sucker so much. My testimony is just taken down. Now I'm like, and all the channels I've ever told it on, fully. The only reason why this one wasn't taken down was because I never tried to tell my testimony fully on it. Never did. I studied. When after I found Dawn's Directions and everything, I came out and started doing videos, and I was studying what I was seeing in that cipher. And I was like, oh my gosh, I saw this. These are the radar systems that were in here. Oh my gosh, look guys. I took this map out of this thing that I created, and I matched the cloud patterns. Like, that's impossible. But it's possible, because with God, all things are possible. Anyways. So if you've been following me a minute, you want those books, get them. I did bring up the name of that website, but I'm doing this organically. I'm not coming out saying, hey guys, if you want to follow me on this, because they have messed with so much of my stuff. Like, I can't even, Persecution Rises, that website that I started, I go back over there. I'm like, oh, there's a couple errors there, errors that were not there before. And I can't post on it. The last blog I did, I was like, oh, it's been over a year, and I showed where every time I tried to type, something was coming up in the screen. I kept taking screenshots of it. It was 404 error and all this. I can't do it. I can log into the thing on the back end, but the moment I start trying to work on that, everything goes crazy. So I'm like, okay. So now I got my testimony up, and I've stopped. But there is an enemy out here. You know, Jesus says, for we do not fight against flesh and blood, but we fight against principalities, you know, rulers in high wicked places. These people know how to use frequency. I mean, I've been laying in my bed and got burnt. I've got scars on my body from it where they have literally, and I'm like, ah! And boy, let me tell you, oh my gosh. But I've also learned how to put on the full armor of God so that in the evil day I can stand. And so when they get me, I always say, no weapon formed against me will prosper. I always say that the word says, it tells me that it is health to my bone and marrow. So everything that they have just done to my bone and into my marrow, that it is changed and reversed. And I just declare the word of God, and I'm still here, y'all. Like, that's the shocker, is that I'm still here. So I'm still surviving. And how I'm surviving that's the rough part. That's the rough part. It's kind of stressful. But anyway, so I want you guys to have that. I'm going to get off here because I'm finding now, I'm going to find these links. You'll see them. I have link trees. I think my link tree is on my YouTube. I have my link trees, and I do have that website listed in there. So it's easy to find, you know, it's not like it's really hard to find or anything like that. But I say that because I'm not promoting this. I'm not promoting it at all. Not on this. I'm giving an update on my personal life, because I want people to understand that if you do go through my stuff and you do see, well, she's doing this and this seems like this, and understand why I'm doing it. You know, censorship is so bad that no matter what, if you're sharing the truth and you're asserting that that is the truth, it's going to be taken down. So instead of doing that, I created a way to ask questions and to get other people to ask questions. That way, you know, instead of asserting that this is what's going on, they won't feel led into it, but I'm planting the seeds that will enable them to say, wait, why does this exist? Just like the blog post I did today on the periodic table of elements. How did Dimitri get these proper elements on table when they didn't even have a microscope to see those elements, and then got it right? Come on. It was already here. Just like all these other developments that, oh, we just developed this. Oh, this new mRNA thing, it's all new. Bullshit. If it was so new, then what happened with the transatlantic agreement where they tested this stuff on people that they didn't accept this, they didn't agree to this. It was unethical experimentation on a group of people, and that's fact. And if you don't know it, go look up David Martin and what he talked about at the European Union. That's not my words. This is fact. We have to ask these questions. And it is up to us to ask these questions. Because, you know, and yes, we're at the end. Yes, things are going to get bad. But, you know, people are slightly waking up. You know, but you're not awake until you know the truth. You have to know the truth. That's when you know the truth, the full truth, the 100% truth, that you're set free. So, you know, but I'm not a teacher. I don't want to be held to that standard, because, boy, I'd fail miserably. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be, but I can ask questions. I can provide evidence, and I can get others to say, this is right. In the process, I'm taking the things that I have learned and I'm catapulting on them, or capitulating. I wrote a book about how to start your own EMF business. It is so detailed. I was in marketing for years, and I ran a business on my own. So I already had that education on how to do that. But I did write a book on how to start your own EMF business, and it is packed. But it's a viable market. You know, do I think the world's still going to end? Absolutely. Do I think we're there? Absolutely. But if I tell everybody exactly what's going on in that arena, it doesn't get out. If I provide something such as this, it starts spurring thought. It gets people to think. And when people think, they ask questions. So it is what it is. In the process, I wrote another book, Human Computer. There's some good stuff in there. But I couldn't put it all in there, because if I did, they wouldn't allow it to be distributed. So instead of putting it all in there, I said, okay, I'll do it in a series. So now I'm doing it in a series. It'll all get heard. And I may not say, this is exactly why this exists, but I'm going to show the evidence. You decide yourself, you know. That way, I'm not guiding. I'm just asking the questions and hoping others do too, because we're at that time. And then thirdly, again, just reiterating what I've already stated, that targeted individuals need some guidance. They need guidance. I needed guidance. I wish I had someone there to talk to me and tell me certain things. I really do. It would have saved me 10 years of my life, literal hell. Seriously. Man, my mom used to always try to get me to be a fighter like that, and I wasn't. I was a pushover. Such a pushover. And the only time I wasn't a pushover was when you went to put your hands on me, and then that was it. I was like, oh, you gonna put your hands on me? Okay. And I just had to kick somebody's ass, you know? I used to get paid to fight too, by the way. But that would be the only fight I had in me. I didn't fight people in this political arena. I was like, oh, just forget about it. We'll wash that under the rug. Yeah, like when they almost killed me, when I got sick, and they told me, you're going to die. You're not going to leave the hospital. I should have sued the shit out of them people. I would have had lots of money. Lots of money. But I didn't want to do that. You know, I didn't have the heart to do that. I was like, oh, I'll work hard, you know. I'll work hard. Man, if I had guidance, certain guidance during that time, and that's the point of view that I decided to take when it came to this book. And although I'm going to charge for it, it's going to be something that every target needs. So you'll see me promoting it. Well, maybe not, because you're not going to see me promoting it like that. I may do the targeted individual one on this channel where I'm like, hey, I wrote a book, and it's a guide for every target. And this is how much it is. Here's the link to it. Hopefully that helps supplement something, because financially, oh my gosh, it's just, I could pull my hair out. Big time. But, the other two, you know, I'm posting them on one of my websites, and then in a couple of other, and anyways, and not promoting it like that. This is just completely separate. But I wanted it to be known, because I haven't changed my stance. I'm not changing my perspective. If I put out that, you know, hey, people that follow me, and you see that link and you go click on it, and then you get there and you're like, wait a minute, you know, she said it's the end of the world, and why'd she write this? Well, now you know. Now you know. I don't want you thinking that I've just magically woke up and went, oh my God, the world's not ending anymore. You know, like, no. And I'm not magically, you know, on some other boat and being tossed to and fro like a wave, you know, just grabbing onto anything. No. When I began this channel, I was rooted in that already. So, letting the Word of God guide me. But in the process, I have all these other things that are going on, and I just had to talk to God about it, because I'm like, God, you know, like, you know where I'm at. You know what's going on. And he's the one who gave me the idea. And I was like, are you sure? Because this is tied to my testimony. Like, I wouldn't have got DFMD if it wasn't for that. And he gave me the go-ahead. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And he actually told me, one of the things he told me about the guide for targeted individuals, he told me that the reason why when I wrote this book and stuff wouldn't go far was because I gave it away for free, and that the basis of it was Jesus, and they don't want to hear that. So I was like, oh, really? So all these targets that could have had all this information that could help change the way that they encounter these people in their lives are choosing to turn away from it just because it has the name of Jesus in it. And so instead of taking that route, I can help people, position myself as someone who is a pro in it. And hell, I am. Like, I am. I can tell you that. I am professional in this arena. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hands down. Most people don't survive. I have. And then that way I'll be able to encounter people and have one-on-one sessions with them, and then, you know, be able, because they can come to me. And when they come to me, then I'm able to say, hey, you know what? This is about your soul. And this is all about who we are, why we are here, and go from there. Plant the seed of the gospel of Jesus in them. And charging for it will, because I actually went, and you could go to Amazon and see where books about targeted individuals have been on sale, and they've sold a lot of copies. So people are willing to buy these things to see into it. But and mine has way more than any of theirs. You could put all theirs together, and mine, what I have in mine, yeah. But hey, I'm gonna backstep on that, because again, they destroyed that book. And I still wrote it, though. I still put it out. It's still on my website, for crying out loud. No matter how mangled that sucker got, I tried to put it back together as best as I possibly could. And then I wrote in there, somebody's actively fighting me right now as I'm trying to write this. So I'm going to put it out. Forget the errors. All the information is here. Read it, take it in, and do with it as you will. Did they? I don't know how many downloads there's been. I just know that I struggle reading it. I read it, I'm like, oh God, Carmen, that's not cool. So there may be that problem there too. So me rewriting these things and doing it the way that I'm doing is a lot more logical. And it opens a way for me to probably, at least fund however long we're left here for, and get out of this rut, because, man, I'm tired of these people, y'all, by the way. I am. They make everything difficult. But I appreciate y'all being with me and allowing me to vent all that out. I love you guys. You guys have to look to Jesus for everything. Because if you don't, it's getting dark out here. We are in shark-infested waters. The things that are transpiring are scary, at the end of the day. So don't look at that. Look at him. He said, no evil will befall thee, and no plague will come nigh thy dwelling. You got to believe that, and stand on it. When it looks grim, stand on it. Anyways, I appreciate you guys. Oh, thank you, Roxanne. Yeah, he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. Yeah. Amen. Amen, amen. All right, guys. I love you. Take care, take charge, and don't forget to say your prayers.